Thank you for listening to the Old English D podcast. New episodes are live every Tuesday, so make sure to subscribe and follow to keep up to date on all the new episodes. And as we always say, go Tigers.
What is up, everyone? Welcome to the Old English D, a Detroit Tigers podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Kasey. As always, joined by Josh. Josh, we're coming off an off day. Everyone else in the Central lost today. The Tigers are only 3 games back. I'm completely kidding. We're going through it right now with the Tigers being on a 4-game skid. And losing the first series or the first game of the series to the Guardians this evening. We're feeling it right now, buddy. How are you? How are you doing? I hope you are coming to this wonderful meeting a little bit happier than I am.
It's definitely one of the tougher stretches so far this year. The sweep in New York on presumably really 2 games, but really all 3 games where we feasibly could have won them had we acted like we had a full baseball team instead of just a pitching staff. That's probably the most frustrating point, and it just kind of carried over into tonight's game against the Guardians. But yeah, we'll get through it somehow, some way. They seem to figure out a way to pull themselves out of it. How long it takes is the question, but no, we'll get through it. But how are you, buddy? You hanging in there?
I don't smoke, but I feel like I could use a cigarette. If I had to imagine what it feels like to need a cigarette, it's this feeling right now.
Yeah.
I just feel like I just need to.
You're looking for
steam
something
off,
to cope.
just something, just something. I mean, it's crazy the difference a week makes. Like that's what's so insane is like we're and just to be clear, I understand that I had a little bit of a monologue last week that may have soured at this point, and again, the difference a week makes. I will make the argument that the reason this is so frustrating and the reason the Tigers being at 18 and 17 is so disheartening is because this is a good baseball team. Like, that's what's so frustrating is like, it's in them. It's right there. It's at our fingertips. It's a couple good hits away. It's a couple more ump calls that go our way. And to be clear, the Guardians game tonight was not all on the ump, but the ump did not help us out whatsoever in a pretty meaningful portion of the game for us. But yeah, it just is so annoying that this sport is just such a killer when it comes to momentum and when it comes to being on cloud 9 for however long, and then you can just get very quickly humbled. We'll always have April though. We'll always have April, but I don't know. We'll see. How was your weekend outside of Tigers baseball? I know you took a little bit of a let's say a mental health refresh during the Yankees series, which was very, very smart. I cannot blame you at all. I know you watched most of the games late in the evening after maybe not watching them live, which again I cannot blame you whatsoever. But how was your weekend?
No, it was good. A lot of moving parts to my life this past weekend, so it's been a little bit of that. But Saturday I did some landscaping work at my church, and so I wasn't able to really catch the first part of the game. And after the ending to the game on Friday night, I was like, you know what, this is a good chance for me to just reset my baseball clock, as it were, reset my baseball meter, and just not care for a few hours and just let the game happen and do something else with my life. So I hung out with my family a little bit, took a nap. It was good. It was much needed. And then later in the evening, I went back and I skimmed through the replay of the game. So I caught probably 60 to 70% of the game and got the basic gist of it. But no, and then we were back at it on Sunday. I missed the end of that game. After the rain delay, I did not turn the game back on. But yeah, we were up to date. But yes, it was definitely a much needed mental break, and I think my status as of recording time here late Monday night is much better than it would have been had we recorded Sunday even.
That yes, I can attest to that. I also agree. What kind of landscaping were you doing? Were you planting some flowers? What were we doing?
Oh no, just mulch. A lot of
okay, just
moving and spreading mulch.
Okay.
Manual labor, as it were.
I was gonna say straight up manual labor.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Was it? Did you have help? Was this just a solo job? Like what were we?
No, it was a church cleanup day, church spring cleaning type of deal. So there was a good 30 plus people there. There's a variety of different things that were done, but I helped with the mulch.
It's funny you say that because it's been such a long time since I've been a part of, because I know your church is a little bit smaller, and it's been such a long time that like I've been a part of like a smaller church community that like, because I've only gone to like mega church for a long time now, and so like just like I'm remembering back when I was a really young child that like we'd do like spring cleanup days and you'd have I don't know, the kids would do the Easter egg hunt and stuff like that. And like, none of that would happen at my church currently, just because it's just too big of an operation. It really is an organization, but it's just way too big of an operation to even like to get things like that. And there's still like, volunteer things and stuff like that, but it's just on a completely different level. So that's interesting. That's gotta be kind of fun, just hang around and, push some mulch around.
Yeah,
it was be in community. Sounds like a lot of fun.
Learned a lot more. Do you know what a yard of mulch means? What that?
No,
is?
No idea. Zero idea.
I didn't until Saturday. Learned. We ended up moving 16 yards of mulch, and it's just
that sounds like a lot.
Basically, a yard cubed of mulch equals 1 yard. So like 3 feet by 3 feet by.
So it's a volumetric.
It is
like a measurement. Wow. It is. Okay.
So that was 2 trailers.
I was gonna say that sounds like a lot more than I had envisioned. I was picturing like a few bags.
Oh no! They were brought by a truck and trailer.
Holy cow! Okay. Yeah. Wow. Okay. So that's pretty much all hands on deck. We're getting through this thing.
Yeah.
Now, question for you, because here's the whole mulching thing. Was there mulch that had to be removed first as well, or was that process already done?
Well, no, and that's the other thing that I don't quite.
Or was this just new mulch just entering the chat?
I don't understand the whole process of it. We did not remove any mulch. We put it on top of the existing mulch, and my thought process is
interesting.
Apparently, and I have no factual corroboration to this. This is just what my mind envisions, is that it's the old mulch, as it is covered year over year, just slowly starts disintegrating and being absorbed into the earth again. But I don't know if that's even close to being true.
I didn't know mulch was biodegradable.
Well, it's wood.
I get that, but like I didn't know it had the same properties as an orange peel when you throw an orange peel on and you litter with an orange peel. Okay, all right, well, interesting. There you go. You learn something new every day. I did not mulch over the weekend. I did not mulch. In fact, I really didn't do much of anything. I woke up on Saturday and I knew as soon as I woke up, I'm like, that doesn't feel good. And it ruined my entire like Sunday or Saturday plans rather. I like woke up with like a kink in my neck, slept wrong, and I was just pretty much out for the count. I'm like, this is just awful. And you know what's frustrating is it's been happening quite a bit more often recently. I'm like, this is what getting old feels like. You know, it's my birthday month.
Well,
like, this is just.
Let's not get into that again.
Oh, that's right, you did.
Let's move on past this conversation.
Josh, I'm gonna be 26 this year. How old are you gonna be?
I'm gonna be 6 years old because I can't count.
Oh man, it was so good. Hey, you know, you'll get to live on that forever. You know, you just get to remember that moment. And who knows? Maybe I'm lying about my age. Maybe I also don't know. So
Who knows?
maybe one day we're just gonna have to do a counting lesson with each other. You know, okay.
Yeah.
What comes after 5? What comes after 20? You know, we'll figure it out together. But we'll leave that for another week. Because this is the Old English G, of course, where we get around a mic, talk about our favorite Tigers team, and does not matter how poorly they are performing at any given week. We have plenty of things to talk about today. We have finally the unveiling of the City Connect jerseys. We have some takeaways from this last week of baseball games. We're going to address the offense. And my goodness, how did Xfinity screw up so badly?
And by address the offense, to be clear, we will not be physically, verbally addressing the offense, because we would probably be kicked out of the building if we were to do that at this juncture. But
well, and really, I mean, you know, when I say address the offense, you would really insinuate that there would have to be any offense to begin with. You know, like it's pretty much just a fence at this point. There's no off. It's just fence.
Good one.
That's what I'm gonna go with on that. You can find us on all the socials at the Old English D Pod. Listen to us on all of your favorite podcast networks. Please give us a review. Please leave comments. We appreciate those very much. Let's get right into it. Jack Flaherty is a mean dude. Now, we're going to try to stay positive here in our takeaways. We're going to leave most of the offensive takes, or is that the offense takes? I don't even know how to say that because it sounds like offensive takes. Who knows? But we're going to leave most of the offense conversation to a later part of the pod and get really into it. We're going to create a safe space. We've been creating a lot of safe spaces recently. I feel like I'm part of the left, but here we go. And we're going to move on from that for now, but we're going to address much more positive things. And Jack Flaherty pitching against his former team was a sight to behold. I mean, the dude looked like he was playing a video game. Now, I have been very critical. I've been very critical of Jack Flaherty. I've had many things to say about Jack Flaherty. That's what it looks like when he has fastball command. And for the record, same thing tonight. Pitched a fantastic game against the Guards. It seems like he's kind of on a streak tonight. We saw 98 out of him in both appearances. Don't know where that came from. I don't necessarily care about the velo too much as long as it's not 91 and 90. But it seems like there's been a tick up in velocity, and it seems like it stayed through this Guardians game. He is on a mission. And specifically in that Cardinals game, you could tell he was locked in from pitch one. I don't know if it was his former team. That obviously has its own kind of emotions and things that follow with it. It can either go really poorly or it can go really, really well. And for him, thankfully, it went really, really well. And from pitch one, you could just tell that there was another level to what he was doing. Struck out the first 7, that's right, 7 batters that he faced. He almost threw an immaculate inning in the first inning, which not enough people talk about. I think he threw 10 or 11 pitches, but he was very close to an immaculate inning in a couple of different instances through those first 7 batters. And my goodness, when I talk about why I love baseball, it is that baseball. It is that pitching performance. I fell in love with baseball because of pitching. I love a good offensive hit. I love a good offensive performance, but it's not what I'm looking for when I go watch a baseball game. And that's why. Because when you have a guy that's so dominant, 14 strikeouts, 2-hitter, no walks, what you're looking at is someone who has completely mastered the art of pitching. You know, like you look at it, okay, sorry, he did have one walk. My bad, one walk. When you look at what he was able to do against the Cardinals, not a bad team, by the way. Not a bad offense. I know they're not definitely playing to their fullest potential. The record definitely isn't as great as it could be. There's still really good names in that ball club. I'm talking about Arenado. I'm talking about Goldschmidt. I'm talking about give me another name.
Contreras.
I'm blanking all the young kids. Contreras, yeah, no, he's bad. We made him look like a fool that whole series. It starts with a B.
Brendan Donovan.
The second baseman. Donovan, that's a D, but that's Brandon, that's what I was thinking of. Brendan Donovan, yeah. There's plenty of good names in that lineup that can put together good at-bats, and he made all of them look silly the entire game. And it was truly a sight to behold. It was one of those games where I literally I did this with Tarek Skubal, one of his starts a few weeks back, where I actually watched the Cardinals broadcast, but the opposing broadcasts, just to see what they had to say about it. And my goodness, like it's gold whenever you have that situation where you can just go and I'm just curious what you guys have to say about the pitcher, and it's hilarious. They clearly had no plan against him. That was not the Jack Flaherty that they had in mind. And again, we go back to the whole fastball conversation. We go back to, is he trying to throw more fastballs? Is he not? Clearly he pitches off his fastball. And when his fastball is on, like it was in St. Louis, in Detroit against St. Louis, and now here in Cleveland, that's what that pitcher looks like. And it's so sad that he still does not have a win as a Detroit Tiger. What are we going to do about that, Josh? What are we going to do? What have you liked so far about Jack Flaherty?
No, it's even interesting to watch him pitch the last two games because of, like you said, but you can even hear it. He's starting to do that verbal, you can hear him grunting a lot more. And I don't know whether that's just an audio change or, the increased bandwidth that we get as, non-Xfinity customers or what it is. But you can pick up on that a lot more recently with him. And this is the pitcher that we were hoping to be able to unlock when we signed him. And if he continues to do this, it's going to be a fun watch every time he goes out there. Even talking about tonight's game, man, he made 2 to 3 mistake pitches. And unfortunately, one of them was against Ramirez, and he somehow kept it fair for a home run off of the foul pole.
I would argue it wasn't even a mistake pitch. That's what's so frustrating. It was 96 in, and I hate Jose Ramirez. Oh my gosh, so frustrating. I mean, he's a great player, don't get me wrong, but it's just so frustrating.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing, I always think, sidebar comment, the only thing I think of when I think of Jose Ramirez, especially this year, is, man, he would fit perfectly on this Tigers team. He just
don't even get me started. But yes, 100%. Yes, a player like that would. I mean, and I mean, really, and I said this the other day. You just duplicate Mark Canha times 5. I mean, that's a playoff caliber team right there. I mean, just a guy that just works at bats, chooses the correct pitches to swing at, and he's not even doing damage all of the time. But he's just creating good at bats and creating good opportunities. That'd be nice. And then you sprinkle in a couple Riley Greens in there, every once in a while. I mean, just what an offense looks like.
No, but we
wouldn't know. We wouldn't know.
Yeah, Jack wouldn't know.
Jack would not know. Not at all.
He had to be ecstatic when Riley hit that leadoff home run tonight.
Yeah, and then and so I mean, and so I was gonna go into this about it's a great segue, so I appreciate it. I know that's not all on him, and I know that like it can't be his fault because you're gonna give up runs as a major league pitcher. It's just natural. It is frustrating when it's like, okay, we're out ahead, and then immediately like we're just tied up again. It's like, okay, what do we have to do? Same thing happened with Kasey against the Yankees. You know, we jump out ahead, and then he runs into some trouble. He works out of some trouble. He, you know, gives up realistically, it was tied way too soon after that. But then, of course, the big blow was the Rizzo home run. And, you know, I said to you, because you weren't watching live or anything, but like what's so frustrating is like, yeah, like the stat line for Kasey does not look good at all in that Saturday game. But it's just that one pitch that like, you know, you want back. And it was just the wrong pitch type. It was the wrong location. It was the wrong everything. And when you are playing against that good, I mean, the Yankees lineup is scary this year. I mean, it is genuinely scary,
especially with Verdugo hitting so well.
Yeah, true. I mean, like, what was that? Oh my gosh, yeah, they kept on talking about that, and really, we kind of exposed him a little bit, and made him back off of this. But he had only swung and missed at 9 pitches inside the zone coming into that series in 30 games.
That's nuts.
And I don't know how many he's played, but like, that's insane. Like that is different levels of locked in. And of course, you know, we had already jumped out to the early lead, so it felt like we gave some things away. But yeah, I mean, as a whole, right? Like the pitching staff is just dealing. Like, I mean, we're talking about like, you know, when we had Justin Verlander, Max Scherzer, Anibal Sanchez, Doug Fister, I mean, you know, David Price, like all of the big names that we think of in the 2010s, we're like, how did we not win a World Series? Maybe they're not as crazy dazzling names to the rest of baseball. That much is for sure, but they're pitching like it, you know. And I mean, to have a guy who has now a sub-4 ERA and he doesn't have a single win yet, that's just awful. I mean, his chase rate is the best in baseball. We're talking about Jack Flaherty. His chase rate's the best in baseball, and we can't buy the guy a run. Reese Olson has the worst run support in the majors. Period. Full stop. He has given, like, I think he has 4 runs of run support in his 6 starts. Like, it's just like, what's happening? And, you know, same thing happened on Sunday. Skubal looks like a Cy Young, not even a candidate. He looks like a Cy Young winner out there. And I know he had a couple mistakes against Judge. I get it. I totally understand. Dude just winds up, throws it by people. And I mean, that changeup when it's on is unhittable. So yeah, I mean, just the pitching in general, like, you know, that entire, really the last week has just been so good. And you know, I mean, it really has been good for, you know, the first month of baseball. And it's just so unfortunate that we're at nearly a 500 record, because it's just like, man, if we were just a little bit better, I mean, we've played so many one-run games. You know, our run differential is positive for the first time in I can't remember how long, and it's still positive even after that Yankees series. And it's like, what are we doing here? What are we doing? But there were a couple things in the pitching staff that were a little lackluster in the Yankees series. Of course, I'm talking about some bullpen shenanigans. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. But I do want to begin to introduce the idea that Jason Foley may not be who we thought he was. And that's okay. That's okay. I'm not so sure he is grading out to be the long-term closer option that we need him to be. Of course, it's only 2 blown saves. I get it. I understand. We may be jumping the gun a little bit. But it's the underlying things that I'm looking at that are like, that's a little concerning. Again, we talk about the chase rate all the time. For a while, he was getting strikeouts there. It's not so much the case anymore. And it all goes back to this fastball velocity. When you're throwing 101 with whatever movement, I don't care what it is. I mean, you look at Class A, you know, we closed the night out for the Guardians tonight. He throws 101 with cut. First couple weeks of games for the Tigers, Foley was throwing 101 with sink. Doesn't really matter. 101 with movement is nasty either way you do it, whether it's glove side or arm side. And you're going to miss a lot of bats that way. And unfortunately, this is now the 7th or 8th appearance where Foley's come out, and he's been right around 96. topping out at 97 maybe. And the location he's leaving those sinkers is just not conducive. You can't leave 95, 96 right over the heart of the plate. You can leave 101 right over the heart of the plate, and you can do that just fine. But you cannot leave the 96s right over the heart of the plate. And when your slider is only good when your fastball plays up, and when your changeup is only good when your fastball plays up, it makes, of course, the rest of the repertoire not as great as it could be. And so I think we have to enter the conversation. Lang has played a very awkward role so far in the season, and I think he has earned himself back into the circle of trust, as it were. I don't think Hinch is ever going to name a closer, at least for a long time anyways. And he likes to keep his options open. I completely understand. But I think we're going to start seeing Lang a little bit more in these save opportunities. He's tried to get, maybe Shelby can do it. Oh, that didn't work. Okay, we're going to back off of that. Lang has come up in some pretty big moments so far, but it hasn't been so many times to close out the game. We look at someone like Will Vest, and he's just not really completely clicking in all cylinders either. So I think he's a natural option as a 1B, and then maybe even if he throws strikes, he can definitely be the most dominant out there. So maybe let's refocus that. I would like to see him in a little bit more high leverage situations going forward, and maybe fully kind of shift back to that 8th inning again. Might be a little preemptive, but we'll see. I just want to give my flowers to Joey Wentz. I think tonight, especially against the Guardians, I was, again, like I think I made the comment, a couple weeks ago or whatever. It just kind of feels like we're kind of throwing in the towel when Joey Wentz is warming up and we're throwing him out there. Not anymore. I think, especially tonight, like he's really showing some things, and I think it all plays off of his fastball, but there's something really special with that cutter changeup, kind of duality that he's playing with. And his curveball has always been good. He just has never been able to pitch with it meaningfully. But it's finally time to start realizing that Joey Wentz is actually coming back, and he's actually pitching to the player that we acquired rather than the pitcher that we ended up getting. That we thought we were acquiring someone that really could be a difference maker. We didn't think he was necessarily a bullpen arm, but maybe this is where he finds his home. Maybe this is where he kind of finds his niche. But I'm totally okay with that. He looks a lot better. He's kind of like a replacement for Tyler Alexander, and that role definitely needed to be filled. And the hats off to Joey Wentz. Are there any other names that you've taken notice to in the bullpen, or is my take on Jason Foley a little too preemptive? What do we think?
I think it's a good conversation to have about Foley. One of the things I've noticed is his exit velocity and average exit velocity numbers have gone down quite a bit, meaning he's allowing more hard contact. His chase rate, like you said, has gone down quite a bit. He's only in the 11th percentile in chase percentage right now. I do still think it's a touch early to full-blown move him, but I think that plays into the underlying strength of this bullpen, and that is you have on any given night 2 to 5 guys in that bullpen that can pitch 7th inning or later, no matter when it is, no matter, depending on matchup, depending on team, who you're facing, the situation, all of that. It just really depends, but you have all of those tools. Can I see a world where Andrew Chafin gets the 9th inning in a game because there's 3 tough lefties that are coming up to the bat, and they're going to be substitutions and all of that. But yeah, I can see Andrew Chafin being in a 9th inning of a close game and succeeding. Can I see a guy like Will Vest coming in 8th, maybe 9th inning of a game and having success? I can. Jason Foley, absolutely. You think of Lang. He's pitched a lot better recently. I could definitely see him in that role. Shelby Miller, I think it's time to maybe back off of him in the ninth a little bit, maybe give him a seventh or an eighth and let him reset a little bit, I could still see a pitcher in there where he can pitch well in the ninth. Even all the way down to a guy like Tyler Holton, I think he can still get high leverage outs. I don't know if I'm putting him in the ninth or not, but it's definitely a seventh, eighth inning you could give him. And that's really the underlying strength of this bullpen, is the fact that no matter who it is, no matter who you're facing, you could throw a combination of any of those guys out there on any given night and get yourself three plus innings of absolutely shut down work from any of those guys. And I think that's why AJ really likes not naming a closer, because he wants to be able to, if a guy has had a rough outing, he doesn't want to have to force him back into that situation in the ninth in a 1 or 2 run game when he's got 3 other guys who can do the job just as well, and he can keep the ball in the air, as it were, of just keep juggling those guys back there of who's hot, who just ride the hot hand. I think he's said that a couple times. So I think it's great for him to have options. I don't know if I'm fully ready to move on from Foley as the ninth inning guy, but if it is time, I know where you can find some guys that can do the job just as well.
Well, yeah, and you said it right. Like it's interesting. It actually kind of plays to AJ's hand that we don't have an Emmanuel Class A down in the bullpen, because it doesn't have to be that guy every single time. If Class A gives up 3 home runs and whatever for the Guardians, and he's like looking really bad in back-to-back outings, you start to be like, okay, who's it going to be? Like, what are we going to do? This is terrible. I'm not saying he's going to do that. I mean, he's kind of crazy right now. He's on a crazy run, but it doesn't feel like there's a lot of other options. For us, by not naming anyone and kind of keeping, like you said, that ball up in the air, it's like, well, okay, it wasn't him tonight, but it could be this guy tomorrow. And we have just as much faith as, we did in the other guy for a while too. So, you mentioned Tyler Holton too. I think I think his last week was literally just a blip in the radar. I think he's going to be fine. He's had a couple outings since the weird couple home runs that he gave up. I think those are just baseball. I think Tyler Holton's going to be just fine. He even admitted to overthrowing a little bit too. So there are legitimately so many options you can run out there and it being just fine. And I think it actually plays into our hand having the whole closer by committee instead of having just the one guy that like, yep, this is our only option. If he fails, there's no one else. On that note, for my third and final takeaway, the Central needs to just chill the heck out. I have zero idea why or what it is about this year, but I don't remember a time when all of the pundits, when all of the predictions, and everyone was just wrong about what the AL Central is going to be. You look at the teams, and you look at the rosters that we're dealing with, and everything grades out to be a subpar organization, or subpar division. It's the way it is. But because this is baseball, and because this is, yes, only the first month of the year, but I don't know, man. These teams are playing good baseball teams. Like these at this point, we do not have any firm ground to stand on that these teams are playing bad teams, and they're actually winning baseball games still. And when you look at these rosters and you look at these records, not a lot of things add up, but it's the situation that we're in. And again, looking at just the difference a week makes, like, not only are we 5 games back in the Central, but we're also 2.5 games back of the third wildcard spot that we held this time last week. Very sad, but just focusing on this AL Central, we of course have the dumpster fire that are the White Sox. At this point, I kind of feel bad for them. I didn't want them to be this bad. I think it's kind of sad at this point. 8-27, so we don't have to worry about them. Then fourth place, Detroit Tigers, 18-17, 5 games back. Royals, 21-15. 6 games above 500. 6 games above 500. This is a team that lost 100 games last year, by the way. 2.5 games out of first. Minnesota Twins win 11 in a row. They start the year 7-13 or whatever the heck they did. Win 11 in a row, and they're 20-14. 2.5 games out of first. 20-14. 6 games above 500. And then we have our current series rivals, the Cleveland Guardians. 23-12. At this point, it's just it's a whole conversation on what we didn't think we'd have to talk about this year, but we're here. We need to be clear, and I maybe won't speak for you, but I can speak for me. All of my predictions about their record, about where they're going to finish, their playoff hunt, all that stuff, all of it was predicated on the division being subpar. This is not the case. And it makes our 18-17 start, which again is one of the best starts we've had in the last 5 years, feel completely menial and feel so small to the comparison of what is now just statistically the best division in baseball. I don't know how we got here. I don't know who drank the Kool-Aid. I don't know what happened. But this is what we're dealt. And this is the reality we have to do. So do we have to do maybe some reorienting of expectations? Probably. And maybe you're right. Maybe they are one injury away. The Guardians just lost Stephen Kwan. They definitely, we definitely could have won tonight. So like that's a whole thing too. But we are in some weird uncharted territory with AL Central, and I don't think it's going away. Am I wrong about that?
Maybe not. I mean, I don't think the current play in the AL Central will keep up just in general as a percentage. I think there's some regression to be had across the board. But this is kind of what I've been getting at for the last couple weeks now. And, even off the air, we've had these conversations as well. But with this team and with how the front office and Scott Harris approached the offseason with the Tigers and how the rest of the AL Central built their teams this year, the Tigers really didn't do a whole ton to change the team, especially on the offensive side, that they had last year. And last year pitching was another area of strength for them. So when you look at this team, you really have to say, what are the incremental gains that we're going to make as a team? Not in a finishing position, because I think that even from last year gave us this false sense of where we truly are. Finishing second place in the Central last year didn't really necessarily represent where we were as a team compared to the league as a whole. Whereas this year, I think being in fourth place doesn't represent where this team is in general either, compared to where we've been and what Scott Harris is building. And so when you look at the division as a whole, you say, okay, fourth place, 1 game over 500, that's not great. But if you look at it in a different light and say, okay, we're in May, we're still above 500, whereas in years past, the best record that we've had at this point in the year is last year, and we're still 2 games better than that, even after this recent skid. Through 31 games, last year we had only won 14. And the 2 years before that, we had only won 9 games. So to say that this year has not had its successes would be a disservice to how the team has performed. Now, have we performed up to snuff with the rest of the division? No, we haven't. But when we compare where we've been and where we want to go, this is a great step. So I think reorienting expectations is a fair ask in this situation, because could this team have won 20-some games by now and be right up there with the Twins, Guardians, and Royals? I think we could, but we didn't. we also didn't lose 20 or so games, and we're not the White Sox, and we are still taking strides forward from where we were last year. So, well, it feels like the division with how the Tigers are playing currently is out of reach, and that was our only shot at the playoffs. There's a lot of baseball left to be played, and the Tigers always, the last 3 to 4 years, have always improved as the season goes on, especially in the last couple months. So there's some baseball left to play.
It's true. It's true. I mean, we obviously are only through a month, and I mean, you look at how many of those 1-run games had just, a lot of them we've lost. A couple more runs gets us to the 20-win mark. It's just, again, it feels like there's been so many missed opportunities where it's like, oh my gosh, just one thing go our way or one big hit come across, and it's like, okay, well, this may be just like what we really are dealing with. And man, when this offense, like we said it, but when they slump, they are slumping, and it's tough. But yeah, I mean, positive gains for sure. It's so crazy that the Royals can buy a bunch of over 30-year-olds, and I know, like, we had the conversation a couple weeks ago about their average age. It's actually a lot younger than either of us would even think. It's about only a year older than us, but then you look at the Twins, who we thought that were injury prone or whatever, and then I don't know what home run celebration did they start doing? I don't know, something about a sausage or something. I don't even know. That sends them on some crazy things like the baseball mantis did for the Tigers however many years ago. And then the Guardians, who, like, it's the Guardians that I'm just like, I mean, we see them firsthand tonight. And it really just feels like they just figure out ways to win, and I don't even know how they did it. Like, things just went their way, and it's like, what? I mean, we're talking about a first-year manager, first-year coaching staff, names in the lineup that, I mean, yeah, sure, they're definitely something, and you got your Jose Ramirez's, and you got your Josh Naylors, and Steven Kwan's, but okay, all right, cool. And it's just like everyone is clicking. And then you look at that starting rotation, dude. I don't know half of them. I couldn't believe this, dude. Do you know who their starting pitcher is tomorrow, rather?
I saw the name of said person and did not recognize it, so I don't remember.
So his name was listed as LT Allen. I don't know if he actually goes by that. It's Logan Allen.
Oh.
Don't even know who this person is. No idea who this person is. Never heard of him. Don't even understand. And that's lefty, most right? Of them. I mean, like, I know Bybee, but I'm pretty up on most teams' rosters. So I don't know. It's insane. They're always rolling out a new pitcher that is out to hurt us. So and of course we make Tristan McKenzie look like a Cy Young winner every single time we face him. So it's great. But I've said my piece. What are a few of your takeaways from the last week of baseball?
I don't have a ton. A couple little thoughts. I typically have a note in my phone going at any given week, and I reset it every week. But just of things that I think about when I'm watching these games or driving in the car somewhere or something, I take some notes on stuff. So it's never
hashtag shower thoughts. Is that?
I don't typically have my phone in the shower, but similar idea. Just of it's never truly fleshed out as much as I want it to be, but it's just these ideas that come to my head. And this first one specifically is, I think, the most interesting one. This being, we had this whole long conversation this off season multiple times, and I think it was a going thought, especially as the Tigers loaded up on pitching, that they would be dealing from their pitching as an area of strength. And I had this, thought, and I wrote this down. I think after the win against the Cardinals, the last game of the Cardinal series that we won 4-1, and in that light, this looks a lot more optimistic than it does now. But my thought was, could the Detroit Tigers still trade a guy like Matt Manning for a bat in the next couple of months to kind of stabilize the team? And that thought is coming from a couple different places. First of all, the Tigers need hitting, clearly. Clearly, there's a piece missing in this offense that would just make this team run like never before, especially offensively. So that's one from one side. From the other side, poor Matt Manning can only rack up so many Delta miles going back and forth from Detroit to Toledo. Poor kid.
You don't really need you don't really need an airplane to go for. I know what you're saying.
Right. And not saying that he flies from Toledo to Detroit.
Yeah, I know what you mean. And if they're having an away,
it was New York the first game, so clearly there was a flight needed there. But my point being, the poor kid has pitched well enough in his 3 doubleheader appearances for the Tigers to warrant an extended run in the major leagues. And the really unfortunate part is, especially now, there's not a spot on this major league rotation for him. For a second there, we thought maybe Olsen would stumble a little bit. He had a couple of starts in a row where he looked a little shaky. Kenta Maeda looked like he needed to start playing slow pitch softball there in April. But he's coming around. His last couple starts have looked really good. Olsen's kept it together and has started to pick up the pace a little bit as well. Flaherty has obviously picked up the pace as well. So that hole in the rotation isn't there for Olsen to fill, or for Manny to fill, rather. And so now the question becomes, he's pitching really well. I think these small issues that he's having in his starts, especially in AAA, he's having some walking issues. And I think that's probably just the consistency of a schedule at this point. Just being able to nail down that command and be on a schedule. But he just needs an extended run in the major leagues right now in order to really build up that confidence again. And he's not getting that. He's playing the team game. He's being a complete professional. I have such a changed outlook and a changed respect for Matt Manning after this first month or so of the season. He has done everything the Detroit Tigers have asked of him, and if it means that he needs to be in a new organization in order to help the team and in order to get that extended run as a starting pitcher, I think that he deserves that at this point. So what do you think? Do you think the Tigers have any sort of a runway to maybe acquiring a bat using Matt Manning?
Something I've been bringing up for months now. Should have done it when we had the chance. Might even have a little bit of a resurgence now that he's actually pitched well in some doubleheaders. I said as soon as he went down and was sent down, that we wasted a complete opportunity. He didn't make the team. It looks really bad right now. The optics are not good. We should have traded him when we could. And now that he's actually pitched some meaningful major league innings, that changes, because now you can actually begin to have that conversation. What I will say is that the Tigers need to earn it. And that sounds weird to trade away one of your guys and someone that you've been trying to stick with since we drafted him out of high school. But this team needs to be in a position in 1 or 2 months to actually buy at the deadline. Otherwise, we would be giving up on a kid that is still a kid, and that's number one, and someone that can actually help us out in the future. I don't think we're going to make a flippant decision if we're still 500, and it's all going to depend on where the division is, where we're on the wild card, but maybe 500 is enough, but it doesn't look like it will be. So if we're kind of hovering around, a medial mark come trade deadline, or maybe even a little sooner, because if looks like Preller already started the trade deadline in the trade season. It has to make sense. And when you have a guy like Matt Manning, who clearly still has team control, options remaining, a whole bevy of reasons to keep him in the organization, and then you look at someone like Jack Flaherty, who has to, unfortunately, probably be retained by a very large, very, very hefty contract. You look at that and be like, well, his replacement is a lot cheaper. And so it has to just make sense at any given time. Again, I think this is exactly what this team needs. This is exactly what this organization needs, is hopefully someone that can come in and make a difference on the offensive side of things. I think Matt Manning, and you hit the nail on the head. One, he deserves it, right? He deserves a chance to be in the majors. But then two, I think on his ceiling, right now he can be pitching like a number 3 starter on some whatever staffs, but at his worst he's a 5th starter, and for us he's a 6th starter, right? So it speaks to the depth of our pitching. It speaks to the talent level at the starting rotation currently, and also it just speaks to the fact that Matt Manning is pitching really well, and maybe we should capitalize on that in actually acquire someone that can be meaningful on the other side of the ball. But we gotta play into it. We've got to earn it to have a chance.
Yeah, I mean, if the team is just completely out of contention by the beginning of June, then that move doesn't really make sense. Especially if you're gonna have to get rid of one of those other guys for prospects, and that makes more sense. It's a fair point, and maybe it's wishful thinking, and maybe it's me thinking that the Tigers can operate as a credible contender to this point. But yeah, I don't know. It's frustrating because you want the Tigers to do more. You want the moves to be made on the offensive side where you can see that they're trying to win games and not just fritter away the start that we've had this year. But as we'll discuss later, I just feel like those moves aren't happening the way we want them to. We just got word, and this kind of fits into my second point here. I wanted to do a minor league bat update. Kind of
breaking news,
piggybacking off of the Manning question and the bats that we have in this organization. And I wanted to update some of the stats on some of the prospects in the organization, the hitters. But I think we would be remiss to not update some stats on one Ryan, or how are we pronouncing this?
Ryan Velade.
Because per Evan Petzold, breaking minutes ago as we record, Parker Meadows is being sent down to AAA Toledo in exchange for Ryan Velade, who is a righty outfielder. He is 25. He is not currently on the 40-man roster, so they'll have to do something. I'm assuming this is the Sawyer Gibson Long to the 60-man IL spot move that we've been anticipating for a little bit, to make room for him on the 40-man. Originally in the
Please impress me with some Velade numbers, please. Mm-hmm. I need to know what, because there's plenty of other options that I would have thought of before this, and he requires a 40-man. Please hit me with something.
Yeah, he originally came from the Rockies organization way back when. Looks like he was drafted from them back in 2017. Kind of hung around in their organization, was in the futures game for the National League back in 2021. And then it appears that he was claimed off of waivers by the Pirates in 22. And then the Tigers claimed him off waivers in the fall of last year. So he's been in the organization less than a year. But his start at AAA has been pretty good. And he even surprised me with a couple of at-bats he had in spring training this year. Probably not a whole lot of people paying attention to him, but yes, in his 78 at-bats so far in AAA Toledo, he's hitting .333, 3 homers, 17 RBIs, 8 stolen bases, with a .949 OPS to start his time at Toledo. All right. It's not bad stuff. It's really not.
No. I was thinking more of like a Badu or like a Keston Hira if it wasn't gonna be like a 1-for-1 switch. But okay, all right. Those numbers they speak for themselves. He seems like he's earned a call up.
He's striking out at strikeout to walk is like a 4-1, 3-1. No, that's not math work. Yeah, 3-1. Currently, so not awful strikeout rate at this point, which you would be concerned about. But his on base percentage is 398, and which is perfectly in line. And it's probably one of these guys where they're really trying to give him a shot. They made the investment into this waiver claim, and they're trying to see what they have. I would be more upset about this move, and this is again knee-jerk because this is happening as we speak. The move has not been officially announced. This is all per sources from Evan Woodbury, but I would be a lot more upset about this move not being Badu, not being Justin Henry Malloy, not being Chase Young. There's probably 3-4 other names that I would pick before Vlade, but I would be way more upset about this move if we had not seen what happened with Buddy Kennedy and the decision that was made to bring him up for the Andy Ibanez injury. The Tigers seem to have this year this idea of who they want to be on this team, who they want to contribute. And you also talk about Wenzel Perez and what he's brought to the team since he's been up. He's been amazing, and he was not even a guy on either of our radar to get called up, to be the first guy called up or the second guy called up. But both of those guys, both Kennedy and Perez, have both had meaningful impact on this offense and on the bases and on the defense. They've been good when they've been called up. So I have a lot more faith, I think, now than I would have at the beginning of the season that this move is going to work out. And like I said, I liked a little bit of what I saw in spring training from Vlade. So this is interesting. I'm not hating this, actually.
I think you're burying the lead a little bit, though. It's your guy, Parker Meadows. How do we feel?
I mean, it's another one of those situations, and the first guy that pops into my head is Billy Hamilton. Obviously, Parker's not quite the base stealer that he was in his career, but this speed tool and the outfield tool comparing to the hitting tool, I think is a good one here. You can't use that speed on base paths, and you can't validate the glove in the outfield if you never get on base. And Parker's just struggled so much with getting on base, getting the bat to be consistent. He has the tools, and I think we both agree that the tools are there for him to be a great player. But with the only thing that's going for him right now is his glove, because he can't use the wheels if he's not on base, then you're going to lose that spot once a guy comes along that, has that, that hitting, the full package that can contribute to the team in a more meaningful way. And I don't think this is the last we'll see of Parker Meadows. They clearly think enough of him to have him on the opening day roster this year, and to, show that faith over the offseason for him. So this wasn't the last time we were going to see him, but this brings into highlight one of the points that I had for this team. You look at the Detroit Tigers top 30 prospects list, and it's so funny because MLB.com and MLB Pipeline, they have it set up on there where it shows you what their projected ETA or when they will be called up on there. And there are so many guys in this top 30 where the ETA says 2024. Going down the list: Ty Madden, Justin Henry Malloy, Kiter Montero, Wilmer Flores, Sawyer Gibson Long, Justice Bigby, Dylan Dingler, Brant Herter, and it gets a little bit. Eddie's Leonard, Wenzel Perez obviously is up, so that one came true. Tyler Madison, Trey Cruz. There's a lot of guys on there that they're projecting to make this team. I don't know how in the world you find the spot for all of those guys. So this is all coming to a head, and obviously if they're calling up Ryan Vlade, they're also kind of trying to figure out how to get guys the opportunities when they come along. And who knows, maybe this is Vlade's opportunity to make the team and show what he can do, or else he's going to be out because one of those guys is going to want that opportunity coming up next. Who knows? I don't know. But Parker needs to reset in hitting. To go back to the question you asked, he has earned this demotion currently.
That's a funny way to look at it. Yeah, earned it. He has. I thought his play in the outfield would earn him a little bit. There you go, earn him a little bit more time here. And honestly, it's kind of interesting. You know, he's actually made a few strides in the batter's box, more so than a couple other people that could also be on this list. But it goes to show. They're willing to make decisions, and that's good. I'm very happy with. I mean, it may be a little bit overdue, but they were always like, we're gonna preach patience. We're gonna have a young offense. We need to just stick with these guys. These are our guys. We're gonna we've made our bed with it. We're gonna finally sleep in the bed. And when you clearly have a disconnect between whatever is being talked about closed doors, whatever is being talked about in the hitter meetings, and actually what is being produced on the field, things need to change. And I'm not saying that Parker Meadows is gone forever. In fact, the exact opposite, exactly like you're saying. I think we see Parker Meadows at least one more time, right, this year, and hopefully he stays up the next time. And that's what's so important about having this conversation about lackluster, short list of people and, probably do need a mental reset down in Toledo. It's not the end. Like, one, that Toledo team is so darn good. You just go play more fun baseball with a team that actually is having fun playing baseball. It might do something for you. And two, there's so much more baseball left. If you pull the trigger now on some of these decisions, they can be back up by the trade deadline. They can be back up by the All-Star break, and it be totally fine. And realistically, we just need to tread water until then, and it's okay. And that's what scares me so much about the whole patience thing. That's what scares me so much about the whole, we're just gonna lie here and it's gonna be okay. No, there's clearly a different standard that has to be upheld here, and we're gonna play to a different threshold. And if you're not playing at that threshold, no, goodbye. You're done, and you need to go. You need to go do other things. You need to be a part of a different baseball team that is not in the major leagues, because the reality is this team is trying to win baseball games. And when Spencer Torkelson is grounding into a double play again for however many times, it's like, all right, what are we doing here? When Parker Meadows is hitting another pop fly on the infield in what would arguably be a leverage at bat, you just can't have it. It's just not. When your 7, 8, 9 guys are literally just placeholders at this point for the Riley Green and the Mark Cannas to come back up, we got to shake some things up. So I'm glad that things are moving kind of quickly. It's not the first name that I thought was going to be there, because again, his defense is so good. But I think it goes to show how much they've really liked Wenzel. And then you've seen him in center field. You've seen him in center field a couple of games here in a row. I know he was sick the last couple of games, but before then he was playing center field, and he played a little bit of center field tonight. They're comfortable with it. And if they're comfortable with it, that's what makes them, pull the trigger on this Parker Meadows move. So I'm surprised to see it. I'm surprised that's the name. We've been obviously talking a little bit more about Torque and Colt Keith more recently, but yeah, it had to start somewhere. So I'm glad they're starting. With tearing down some things that need to be reset. What other minor league bats did you want to touch on?
I had a whole list, and I think we'll save that for next pod. We're
fair enough.
We're quite a bit in here.
Did you want to go into Kenta, or?
I think I'll just highlight real quick his last couple starts here, because I think it's due. I think he has earned that, with
deserving for sure
with his play recently. We'll just go over it real fast here. In his last couple starts, he has looked so much better, so much more in control. And the thing that I really noticed about him, just from 30,000 feet, is that his misses have not been in the strike zone. And I think that's what was truly hurting him to start with. Just he looked like every single mistake he was throwing was getting absolutely belted to one part of the field or another. And who knows what the true cause of that? Maybe it's the confidence. Maybe it literally is just his brain can't handle the month of April, because apparently that's the worst month in his career.
It's insane. It's just uncanny.
They pushed back his start because of that doubleheader against the Cardinals to be in May, and like clockwork, he has a fantastic start. But to be fair, his previous start against the Rays was also very, very good. But those last two starts, the one against the Rays, 5 innings, 3 hits, 3 hits, no earned runs rather, and 5 strikeouts, no walks. And then that last start against the Cardinals, 6 innings pitched, which is really big for him because I think that's the longest outing he's had. 4 hits, 1 earned run, no walks, and another 5 strikeouts. So just to have those starts under his belt now, and to be able to eat more of those innings and build up his arm a little bit more even, it's such a big thing. And especially like we were talking about for this pitching rotation, to be 5 strong pitchers and to not have any holes, it makes it a lot harder to face this Tigers team overall. What did you think about Kenta the last couple starts?
No hashtag mystery injury needed, huh?
Guess not.
Guess not. No, he's looked a lot better. I think his April is for some reason just when he thinks spring training is, and it's like no, Kenta, these games matter. These matter too. But I don't know, maybe he doesn't get the memo or whatever. But yeah, it just seems like, mental flip into the new calendar month, and he's totally fine. I will never be convinced that it seemed to play out like that. The doubleheader, we're gonna shift his start to whatever, we're gonna shift some things around. No, they did that on purpose. They put him in May on purpose because they know these stats just as well as anyone. I know. At some point, it's like, oh, this is complete, just hearsay, and it's all just funny baseball stuff. But when you have 10 years worth of statistics and this is how it grades out, you maybe just start to believe it at some point. So, glad that he's able to turn the corner. I'm glad that he has put together some much better, much needed starts because when we're looking at Matt Manning and we're like, okay, well, this guy can pitch a one hitter and however many doubleheader games, and then we just send them right back down. It's like, okay, what's happening? So you always want your investment to play out. I know Scott Harris feels a lot better about the situation now than I'm sure he did a few weeks ago. So good on Kenta. Glad that he is playing on all cylinders again. Josh, we have finally seen them. The Detroit Tigers have unveiled their City Connect jerseys. And might I say,
haven't wanted to claw our eyes out yet.
Well, that tiger that is the zoom in on his face. He wants to claw your eyes out. He wants to claw your eyes out. They will be known for now for this next week as the Motor City Kitties because they're playing into that. We have Motor City big and bold across the chest. We have some deep blues and blacks. We have, I think they're calling it electric blue, right? Electric blue highlights. Some tire tracks for, of course, the whole car situation. They're really leaning into the car and to the Motor City situation, which makes sense, right? That's kind of where you got to play into it. I don't hate them. I don't. I do not hate them. I think they are a lot better in light. And I'm very excited to see them actually on people in the daytime because a lot of the promo shots were in very dark rooms and you really can't make out any of the cool little nods to things. And I think they have nailed the small details. It's something that we don't really talk about with these City Connect jerseys so much because we're not the target audience when we get these City Connect unveilings for other teams. Truly, we're not. And so I think these are nods that every other team has been able to acknowledge and appreciate a little bit more than, an onlooker who just looks at those, the Phillies jerseys and we're like, Okay, that's a weird choice. I like them, but I can understand why someone doesn't like them, or God forbid, the Cherry Blossom Washington Nationals. And we just don't have that kind of emotional tie to some of these cooler, smaller detail nods. But with the Tigers jersey, they kind of nailed some of these smaller details, and I think it all kind of comes together to form a package that, if it wasn't going to be perfect, which we know it was never going to be, it is at least indifferent, and I'm perfectly happy with that. What is your knee-jerk reaction?
So that is exactly what I have in front of me. I watched the video today, this morning at 10. I watched the video. I looked through their whole... everyone should go to DetroitTigers.com and click on their City Connect little tab, because it goes through the whole jersey. It goes through all of the details. You can click on the different parts of the jersey, and it'll tell you exactly why they did it. It's really, really built out, really cool. So if you're wanting to know why they may have done one thing or another with something, it'll probably be on there. But I went through and I did that very first, and then I sent a tweet out about it, my knee-jerk reaction. I'm going to read it because I think it still is fair for how I feel about it. I said, knee-jerk reaction, overall a very tame attempt at a City Connect jersey. Not the worst ones out there, though. I need to see them on the field first, but they definitely could have done worse. My major complaint is that they should have chosen a true logo for the hat. And I truly think that is my only gripe about the jersey. Originally, very, very first, I didn't really love the little racing stripe thing around the sleeve, the hem of the sleeve. The more I see it, the more I'm okay with it. The dark color, I thought I was going to be worried about. I actually kind of like it. I need to see the uniform on the field, mostly for the pants. Anybody who's knows me or has watched any of the TikToks I've made about it, the all one color or dark color pants just don't do it for me for whatever reason. I think a lot of the times, especially the previous Dodgers City Connect all blues with the blue pants, they looked like pajamas. And I really struggled with that. I'd like to see these. I think these have a good shot of being better than that. But truly the only complaint I have is the hat. The hat comes across as very boring, and I realize they have the cool detail on the underbrim, and it is really cool in the electric blue, but all they really had to do for the hat was slap that 313 M1 logo on the front of that hat. They had the logo made. They had it made. Throw it on the front of the hat, and it would have made it so much better. And we even...
Well, yeah, I love that. I love that idea. What if they had done the tiger logo, though? I like your idea better, but just I was going to bring that up. What do you think of like the tiger paw logo, or like the face that
they already did it for the spring training hats? So I feel like that would be copying what they already did.
But like the deep blue, like a deep blue
in that color, it would look very good. Yeah, it would look really cool. Mm-hmm. I agree with that, but just something other than the words.
That 3-1, that's a great idea, though. Oh, that would have been so
other than the words Detroit across the front. Yeah. Like, if we're looking at this, we already know who's playing the game at this point. It's not like we're sitting here with... Yeah, whatever. Another thing I wanted to shout out, and I think it is well deserving. Another one of the people I follow on Twitter, a gentleman from the United Kingdom who's a Tigers fan. Shout out to you, Tigers fan UK CJ. He did a Photoshop of these jerseys that have the piping down the front of these jerseys in orange, and it completely nails the look, and it's very, very frustrating for me.
Do you remember when we were so scared that the jerseys were going to be all orange, and it was going to be all orange everywhere,
and tiger stripes or something?
Orange. Yeah, like the claw, like the like the claw across the jersey, and instead, no, we're completely robbed of any orange. Like, do they not appreciate anything about like the Photoshop you're referencing is near perfect. Like, if they would have come out with that And we already knew they weren't going to because he added the orange stripe on the hat. And we, of course, the leak turned out to be true. The hat was real. That had leaked a couple weeks back. We knew they weren't going to do that. But to get rid of all the orange, like, come on. What are we doing? I understand blue is important. I understand the electric blue is a cool color. I get it has all these ties. But, man, like, why are we just completely forgetting about the orange? Like, give me something.
Yeah.
I think you're right on about the hat too. And what's so frustrating about the hat, and just as a note, I'm gonna see these live in person this weekend because of course I was an idiot and bought Tiger tickets to the Houston game on Saturday. The hat is arguably the most important thing for me because I could buy it. Like, I would actually want to purchase it if it was cool. And I will say I'm holding out a little bit of hope when I see it in person. I'm hoping it's a little more blue and has a little bit more, like, on the top than what these, again, like in the lights, the whole jersey plays a little bit differently. But all of the marketing so far is in the dark. And I've seen like inklings of the hat being a little bit more blue than it's letting on. And if it is a little bit more blue, I think that's cooler. So we'll see what it looks like in person. But just the Detroit, again, the Helvetica italics, weird R, it's just a complete miss. Like they could have done something so much cooler. You're right. We know who's playing. We get it. We don't need necessarily, to hammer in the fact and to really hone in the fact that this is Detroit. It's almost like and it's funny you bring that up. It's almost like they were worried that they weren't making enough of a connection to Detroit. Like it's almost that blatantly obvious where they're like, oh shoot, are people gonna get the Motor City thing? And like, of course they're gonna get the Motor City thing. Like people understand that. It reminds me that the jersey as a whole really reminds me of the first City Connect jerseys that we saw 2 years ago, which is the Houston Astros Space City Connects. And it's pretty much an echo of that whole jersey lineup. I don't know who designs these. I don't know who's responsible for them, but I wouldn't be surprised if some overlap happened because obviously just outside of the city thing, like it's the same, it is the same exact setup where you have some kind of patching on the sleeve that meaningful to the team. You have a thing on the hat that's meaningful for the team. Of course, you have this VIN number, which I think the VIN number is super cool now, kind of seeing it and actually seeing the etching of it. The VIN number is also in the jersey, and so that's super cool too. In the I think the crew neck of the jersey. And then obviously, like the Motor City big lettering on the front chest, going with a moniker that's not, Detroit or Tigers or anything. I think that's a bold choice. It's kind of what Houston did as well. There's a lot of echoes to that jersey, and I don't hate the Space City ones. I kind of like the Space City ones. And I think the small details and the small nods are what we really have to hang on to for this, because they could have been better for sure, and we knew that going in. But what we ended up with was plenty cool enough. And of course, the trailer, the PR, all of that stuff has been great. I love everything they're doing. Eminem cameo in the video. Wish he got more of a start. I wonder how much that cost. For that 1/2 second of him being in there. But when you have a whole rap video debuting the City Connect jerseys and Eminem's not really rapping or in it, like, come on, guys. Like, what are we doing? I mean, like, the draft just happened. The Lions got him. Like, why can't we get him? I don't know. Whatever. But
no, it's definitely odd. And the thing that I keep reminding myself is that no matter what they came up with, we weren't going to be 100% happy. That just wasn't going to happen. So all in all, again, I'm qualifying my whole take with I have to see them on the field, but as of what we've seen right now, I'm not upset at what we got overall.
I don't know what the forecast is looking like for this weekend, but man, if it's in the 70s, it's going to feel like they're in the 90s. If the sun's out whatsoever. And by the way, I don't know if this is, again, these are all these details that I do not pay attention to with all these other City Connects. Is it standard that every team home game on Fridays is them wearing the jersey?
I think different teams have a little bit of
Different
variation with
standards.
how they do it. Sometimes they wear them a whole series, or sometimes they wear them only the one game. I know the Mets are operating on the same schedule as the Tigers at home
Gotcha. Yeah.
Fridays or home weekends or
Home
whatever.
Fridays. Yeah. Yeah. I guess I didn't realize how, and again, I don't know how often it plays out, and it might end up only being, realistically, when you look at the whole of the weeks, it might only end up being like 10 other times, but we'll see. But yeah, they're wearing them this weekend. I'll get to see them in person. They're wearing Friday and Saturday, which they're having a fun little block party for those 2 days. So might be doing that. We might be taking some videos and some live reactions from that whole thing. I'm sure there'll be plenty of opportunities to buy everything. And I'm gonna try my hardest to not buy things when I'm there, because I will say, outside of the jersey and outside of the hat, which again, I'm holding out hope for the hat, that it looks better in person. The rest of the merch, A-, A- to A. Like there are some really cool designs with some sweatshirts, some shirts. There's a golf polo that I am gonna hunt down, dude. If I see that golf polo, oh my gosh, it's over. Oh my gosh, my Sunday Red budget is gonna quickly diminish. That's of course a Tiger Woods reference for his new company. But that will take the place of whatever polo I was gonna buy from Sunday Red, because man, that golf polo is so cool. So yeah, I'm excited to see them in person. I'm excited to see what they look like again in the light rather than all the craziness. Not sure who's gonna be pitching the game that I will be at, but I think I'm gonna miss Verlander by like a day. So that's just my life. Still never have seen my favorite baseball player of all time. So, hey, that's how it goes. Any other things about the City Connectors you wanted to mention before we've been waiting for this for what feels like an eternity. So, say your piece now before we see them.
Waiting for, maybe not as much as dreading, but yeah, I think...
You were nervous about this. You were so nervous, dude. You have been watching this like a hawk.
After some of the fails that they've put out with these City Connect, I think it was a deserved worry at this point.
Yeah, for sure. When you got the Nationals
awful.
and yeah, okay, you're right. I was about to make a diss about the Nationals ones because that's just funny at this point, and it's all tongue in cheek. But you're right. The Pittsburgh ones were so bad. I'm sure is it PGH? Is that the abbreviation they went with? I'm sure that means something, but those were not the letters I would pick out to be an abbreviation for Pittsburgh. Whatever.
Abbreviation in everything else would have been fine. PIT. What? Everybody gets that.
Yeah, I don't get it, dude. I hope, and again, it's like the same thing. It's like these minor details. I hope we're making a fool of ourselves right now for their sake, because those were awful. Just terrible. They looked like a beehive. All right. We've already kind of started this conversation, but I just want to lay it all out there. Want to get a couple things off my chest. I'm sure you have a couple things off your chest that you want, or things to get off your chest. We're just, again, going to create a little safe space to talk about the offense. Parker Meadows is no longer a part of the offense, so that's one domino down. That means they're making strides. That means that, again, they're willing to make concessions. They're willing to make admissions that things are not going the direction they want them to. And they're willing to make changes. That's really positive. Couple things to look out for. Colt Keith, not sure how long they're going to hang around. Just saying, not sure how long it's going to happen. They gave you a big contract, so I'm sure it's a little bit longer leash. But man, Spencer Torkelson, where have you gone? Where have you gone, my sweet child? I miss you so much. I know you're in there somewhere. I know you're clawing at the opportunity to do anything, but it is just not working out right now. And so much so that again, making inroads, making strides, the Tigers have not placed him above 5th in the batting order for the series and a half now. He actually batted as low as 7th in the Yankees series. So there's a quote that I want to get out there about Torque, and then we can talk all we want about the very sad offensive showing that we've been seeing the last week and a half. AJ Hinch, when asked about moving Spencer Torkelson down to the 7th hole, quote, you see him steadily moving down in the order, and the next stop is next to me. We're trying to keep supporting him because he's a good player, but he's not in a good spot. End quote. That is the most real and raw that I've ever heard AJ in his entire tenure with the Tigers. And I'm not even really sure it's close. You see him steadily moving down the order, and the next stop is next to me? Bruh. Now, what I appreciate about AJ is this is not the first time Torque has heard this. This is not the first time that AJ, he's not the type of manager that's going to go out and completely throw his players under the bus. I think they are in constant communication. I think they're talking all the time. I think they're trying to address whatever's wrong. But that is raw. That is something to behold about a guy who hit 31 home runs last year and arguably carried your offense for the second part of the year last year when Riley went down. It's sad. We're in a scary place with Torque, and I mean, realistically, I think if it wasn't for City Connect Week and him being a big part of all the promos that they've already shot, there's a real conversation about him already being sent down. But I think the clock is ticking on Spencer Torkelson, and every misplay he makes at first, or every play that we think he should have gotten or whatever, only adds to it, because okay, now both sides of the ball are a thing. But I think they will play it very, very slowly with this. I'm not sure who gets the hook first, whether it be Colt Keith or Spencer Torkelson. It's a tough bet, but when your entirety of your offense, not just these two guys, are not playing well, it's like, okay, well, what do we really have to do to shake things up here? I think there's a couple guys in AAA that are barking at the opportunity and maybe even making a case right now for that opportunity to take place. And these names are not quite as defensible and also unbreakable as we would have thought. So you think of Spencer Torkelson going down to Toledo in his third year in the majors, like, whoa, that's like, okay. But no, I mean, like, you can see it, and the opportunity is really there. So it's bad all around. We are getting on base, we're not getting home, and that's probably some of the worst of it. Like we said in the beginning, we're still over 500. We still, have the opportunity just to try to, tread water. But this next week is pretty big for some pretty big names. What would you like to get off your chest about the offense, my friend?
I'm gonna lead off. No baseball pun intended there, but I'm gonna start with the basic fact that the Tigers' offense is not good overall. And Spencer Torkelson, Colt Keith, obviously Parker Meadows, Javi Baez, the catching position as a whole. Quietly, Zach McKinstry's had a very, very quiet start to the year as well.
So bad, right? So bad.
Quietly, no one's talking about that either. And I know it gets rolled up into the whole
not playing
offense.
As much, but
well, yeah. There's a reason for that.
Right.
So I am openly admitting that I understand all of that. All of that is true. All of that is accurate information, and I am not disputing that. What I am going to point out is the simple fact that this is the best Tigers offense in 4 years under AJ Hinch. And
it's insane, but you're right.
It's wild to think about, and it's only highlighted by the fact that this is the best Tigers run differential wise that we've seen in the 4 years under AJ Hinch, and it's not particularly close. At this point last year, after 35 games, the Tigers had a negative 39 run differential, only topped by the year 2021 when they had a negative 67 run differential at this point.
That's insane.
This year, our run differential through 35 games is 3 runs over positive.
We were doing a podcast back then.
Yeah, we didn't know what we were doing, and it's probably for the best because we didn't know what all of this entailed, and we didn't know what we were getting ourselves into. But
we're sad about the +3 run differential. My goodness. Oh.
So
It's a good perspective setter.
The context is important. Again, going back to how I started, I understand that where we want to be as a team and where we want this team to be and perform, we want this team to be doing better than it is. And the team can perform better than it is. But there's a reason why the last years were so bad at the beginning. And it was because guys had slow starts. And there's a reason last year why we had what was it? How many games did we lose in a row in June after Riley got hurt? It kind of blurred.
I think it was 8 or 9.
It was up there. It was almost double digits, if not double digits. And that happened because guys had this slow start or had this stumble or whatever the case may be. This happens yearly for these Tigers. And it's very frustrating and it gets old, but this is how the Tigers have operated. Now, this year, fortunately, we're in a much better jumping off place to have that improvement going on throughout the season. And this is kind of where I was going to end up with this conversation is when you talk about Torque, especially when you talk about Keith being a rookie, this is his first month in the major leagues, but especially Torque and Keith specifically. These are two young hitters. And the entire basis of our, quote unquote faith in Scott Harris is that he's going to build this team from the inside out and that he's going to base this offense off of these young players growing and improving. If you're going to trust Scott Harris, take him at his word and trust in the plan that he has set up for this team, which I might add has so far worked out pretty well. With the improvement last year and then what we've seen so far this year and the improvement on top of that, the Tigers are going to have to let these guys struggle. Spencer Torkelson was so much worse to start the year the last couple of years than he is now. He's currently, and I know this is one stat, and I can cherry pick till the day grows long, however that saying goes.
You can do that forever. Yep.
Spencer Torkelson is leading, or he was before the day today. I think he's in second now, but he was leading the league in doubles. He has a almost full 2% below league average in strikeout rate. Same for Colt Keith. He's putting the ball in play a ton. He's just missing pitches a ton. Now, do we wish these guys would come out of the gates firing on all cylinders? Absolutely. That would make this team so much easier to watch, and we'd have 30 wins by now. But that wasn't going to happen, and for these guys, it seems to not happen. The only person I worry about in this specific instance is Torque, because he's going to feel the negativity. He's going to feel this pressure, and for whatever reason, Torque seems to get in his own head about this stuff, and I think it keeps him in whatever slump he is in for longer than he needs to be in it. Or than he really has to be in it. So all of this to say, I'm not really that worried about Torque because this is a pattern that he can figure it out. He figured it out after going down to AAA in July, his rookie year. He came back up and he had a very serviceable August and September in 2022. Last year in 2023, he had this slow start and then end of May, beginning of June, he turned it on, ended up hitting 30 home runs, and he's the second coming. This year, he's starting out so much better than he has the last couple of years. He's putting the ball in play. He's not striking out. He's making contact with the ball, which his strikeout rate was the biggest complaint we had about him last year, and it's down so far from where that was. So, I still think good things are coming for especially Torque and Keith, but this offense as a whole, if they can get guys like Carey to hit consistently, Carey has been very good this year in stretches. If Riley can continue to be a part of this lineup, having Riley in this lineup for a full year as a whole over 162 games, how many ever he actually ends up playing, is going to be a boost off the jump right there. And if you can get guys like Colt Keith and Spencer Torkelson to finally figure it out and get their timing together, which is most of the problem, then this team's going to be in a great spot come August, September overall compared to the last few years. That's what I would like to say.
couple things. You touched on Riley there. Of course, most of our statements are excluding Riley. I mean, like
Mm-hmm.
he has been. He had 8 home runs in April alone, 7 or 8 home runs in April alone. He's had 5 home runs in the last week. So I mean, yeah, he's on a tear, and not saying it's going to last forever, but there are of course a couple bright spots out there. The Riley Greens, the Wenzel Perez's, the Matt Vierlings. They've all Mark Canha. I mean, there are pieces here. It's just that bottom of the order, man. It is scary bad. With Torque, it's less so about what his actual numbers are and more so about what everything else outlying and the underlying statistics say about him right now. I mean, if you want to get depressed, you can look up Spencer Torkelson on Baseball Savant and just look at his homepage at the current juncture. It's sad. It's a sad site. It's really bleak. The highest number that you'll see on his Baseball Savant page is his base running value, and that's at a 77. We're not in the business of having Spencer Torkelson win us games on the base paths. And that's, mind you, his chase rate is 72%, or in the 72 percentile. Those are the only 2 numbers above 40. So that's his walk rate's 46, but that's it. I mean, like we're talking about 50 if you want to go that route. So he is not looking at the underlying statistics going to turn the corner anytime soon. Expected batting average is 181. He's hovering at the 220s right now. So, the stats do not play out to what he was liking, or to the pitches that he's actually making contact on. Expected slugging percentage is down in the 260s. That's in the 2 percentile of major league hitters. Barrel rate is down in below 10%. It's just, I mean, there's just so many things that just are unfortunate about the start that Spencer Torkelson has had. Is that to say he can't turn it around? No, of course not, right? I mean, all these things can come together and hopefully turn the page. But it's the things that we're not seeing out of him, doing damage on middle pitches, actually executing on pitches that he can do damage on. All these different things that Scott Harris preaches, he's just not doing it at the plate. And he for instance, tonight he made Tristan McKenzie look like he was throwing 102 and he was throwing 92. He's just late. Early on breaking stuff, late on fastballs. Bad combination. Bad combination. So whatever they need to do to get him right, whether it is benching him, whether it is sending him to Toledo if they want to be that drastic with it, it needs to happen because this cannot continue. With the addition of someone like a Vlade, not saying that he's going to play every night. They clearly like some of the tools that he's going to bring into play, but I would now like to begin to see what this lineup looks like without Riley in the leadoff spot. Not saying Vlade is a leadoff hitter. I really want to see Wenzel Perez in the leadoff spot. I like him in the 3-hole. I think it's fine in the 3-hole. I think he had those couple games where he looked, totally capable of holding his own. I truly think he plays a good enough at bat that he can be dynamic in that leadoff spot, and we just need Riley in different situations. Like we just like it. I know the first pitch home run is exciting and it gets us up in different situations, it gets us up early. But we need him to come up when there's more leverage on the at bat. Now, granted, there were a couple opportunities tonight specifically where he grounded a double play and it's not going to work out all the time, but we need him to have more opportunities with runners on base. And unfortunately, the 1-hole when you're 6, 7, 8-hole, 9-hole is not producing the way that and not getting on base the way that they really need to be. Is not effective. I will say, and that's the thing that's so dumbfounding about a lot of this, is we are getting on base. As a team collectively, we really are doing the thing that we need to do and get on base. We just can't come up with a big hit right now, and that's where it's so demoralizing and it's such a tough scenario for this team. So we'll see. Again, a week makes a difference. Who knows? We could be completely dating ourselves come the next couple series, but One domino's already fallen, and I'm sorry that it's Parker Meadows. Maybe no Rookie of the Year this year. Maybe no Rookie of the Year for him this year. But hey, there could still be an MVP in his future. Who knows? You did a good job of sprinkling in some of those spreadsheet things. You have created a very awesome, very fantastic spreadsheet for the last 4 seasons of Tiger Baseball. I want to get more in depth in that. I want to give it its due. So we're gonna do that probably next week. You'd sprinkle in some numbers, kind of some teasing of that a little bit. It's a fascinating read, and we're gonna go in depth into that a little bit more in the next coming weeks. Real quick, the Bally Sports situation is insane. I cannot believe what Xfinity and Comcast have done. Turn on Twitter on I think it was the off day, or no, it was the first game of the Yankees series, right? It was May 1st.
No, it's before the Cardinals.
It was just okay. Was it the last game of the Cardinals?
Delayed, or that got rescheduled?
Whatever game it was last week, I thought you were pulling a fast one on me. I was like, what is happening? And you're like, did you see the Bally Sports stuff? I'm like, what are you talking about? And yeah, sure enough, Xfinity pulled all Bally Sport RSNs, regional sports networks, off of their TV listings within a flash. Now, of course, the rights and all this stuff, right? It ends, at May 1st, whatever. All that legality, and it came out of nowhere. And Comcast is upset that they're still in legal litigation for claiming bankruptcy and declaring bankruptcy, and they just didn't want to mess with it. Bally, of course, has a different narrative. They're like, we tried to make a deal. Comcast didn't want to make a deal. Yada yada yada. To add insult to injury, Bally also extended their relationship with DirecTV and all these other pretty prevalent cable companies, and did not do anything with Xfinity. It's frustrating, dude. Like, what sucks the most is we were already paying for this, like as a family, like we pay for cable, and now we don't get like the number one thing we were still paying for cable for. So it's like, okay, did we just get rid of cable? But we're pretty archaic and set in our ways, so I don't know. We probably won't do that. But now we have to pay separately for Bally Sports Plus, and oh, by the way, it's not on your cable package, so you can't, like, my parents, like, I don't really care about this, but like my parents get mad because you can't change the channel when you're on the app, and like the app sometimes works, sometimes doesn't. I know for me the app has worked great. That is not the predominant the majority vote for a lot of people. That is not the experience a lot of people have been gaining. It seems like you have terrible experience with the app. Correct me if I'm wrong. But it's a whole cluster of a situation. All I can say is Amazon Prime cannot come soon enough. But man, the Bally Sports situation is so unfortunate and just highlights everything that's wrong with Major League Baseball as a product at this current juncture. And it's like, what are we doing here, guys? What were your initial reactions when all that went down?
This whole situation is very funny to me because I've already been through this with the YouTube TV situation over here. I currently subscribe to YouTube TV. It's a very nice service, and I actually quite like YouTube TV as a whole. A while back, they haven't supported Bally Sports or Fox Sports Detroit in a while, apparently, but a couple other channels, including MLB TV, they had the same kind of issue with, and they still have not come to a deal with MLB TV, which I quite enjoyed watching. I watched it quite a bit. And so I know the feeling, and I know what's going on, and I know it's not great, but once this, and it's putting a lot of eggs in one basket, but once this whole Amazon situation figures itself out, at least that's a mainstream service that will have the rights to all of this. And there's a whole video out there on I did a TikTok video about this a while back, about what's going on in the whole Amazon thing and the deal with Bally and all of this stuff. And if you want to know more, you can go watch that TikTok, and it gets a little more in depth. There's a guy that breaks it down pretty well that I highlight there. But it's just so frustrating that this is how MLB handles their rights, and that the individual teams hold their rights like this, and the blackouts on top of that, and all of this stuff. It's just very, very difficult to see a commissioner like Rob Manfred say he's trying to grow the game and then allow teams to hold these rights hostage, whether or not it's a Bally issue, a Comcast Xfinity issue, DirecTV, YouTube TV, Pluto TV. I don't care. Like, you don't see any other sports in the league have this kind of an issue. A little bit of basketball because, and a little bit of hockey because of the relationship with Bally and Diamond Sports, but you just have to go and look at and the NFL, how they handle stuff, and it's so seamless. It's so, I mean, out of market stuff. If you're out of market, you have to pay for this, and you get to watch it no matter where you're at. And if you're in market, you're gonna be able to watch it on one of two channels. I understand that NFL is bigger than baseball when it comes to market share and all of that stuff, but there's a way to do this where it makes sense for everybody, and it really feels like MLB and these teams are just ignoring it, and it's costing the sport fans, and it's really sad to see.
That and the umps. That's a dynamic duo that'll turn you off to sport, to the sport in general. No, that's a joke, of course. Please bring on the challenge system, please. It all goes back to money, and that's what's so sad about it. It all goes back to greed. It all goes back to money. There's always going to be what seems like a shouting match between these companies that just really doesn't need to be had. And then who ends up in the middle of it? The fan. And who ends up on the losing side of it? The fan. Bally will always be bailed out of being a poorly, and Diamond Sports Group will be always bailed out of being a poorly run company and a poorly run organization. And by the way, Comcast and Xfinity are complete monopolies and have strongholds on every major market that is around. And it's not just Comcast and Xfinity, and DirecTV and AT&T are just as much at fault for that too. So it's a very vicious cycle of everyone wanting their piece of the pie. And while that's great that a lot of different players and a lot of different facets are fighting over things like baseball, because that means there's demand for it, it's also costing a lot of people a lot of fandom that they want to watch their team. And I mean, you talk about a legacy sport like baseball, like, how many older generations now are just completely locked out and have no idea how to watch the Tigers. And it's not just the Tigers, but I mean, for our purposes, right? Like, there are so many Detroit Tigers fans in Traverse City or in, Saginaw or, any random city in Michigan. And let me tell you, Detroit bleeds the Tigers, or sorry, Michigan as a whole bleeds the Tigers throughout the entirety of the huge state that is Michigan, that just can't watch their team now, and they don't even know how to get them because they are so accustomed to turning on their cable box, turning on their TV, and they're just there. And yeah, it was weird, I'm sure, for them when it transitioned to Bally Sports from Fox Sports Detroit, but things kind of get over it. It's the same faces, it's the same names that you're accustomed to, and now it's like, you're greeted with an Xfinity blackout screen that says, "We're sorry, we no longer include this in your channel lineup." Okay, wow. I wonder what their ratings are, but I don't even think it really matters anymore. I don't even think they're probably, taking stock of that at the moment. And for someone like me who literally lives and dies by the Tigers, even having that thought of like, man, I really hope they play well tonight because I want this $20 to mean something. And it's like that's a terrible place to be, because I'm the biggest fan, and I pay for everything MLB. I pay for MLB TV. I paid for cable. I now pay for Bally Sports Plus. Like, I will live and die by this team, and it really doesn't matter if they're good or bad. But if I'm thinking that, there are tens of other people who have already canceled their subscription because the Tigers didn't get a hit. And so it's frustrating when that this is a year where the team is actually going to be somewhat good, and now we're completely excommunicated. Again, it's not only the Tigers, millions of Bally Sports watchers, pretty much all of the Xfinity. I think it's 12 teams that are still on Bally. All of them have been taken off the Xfinity channel lineup. So it's not just affecting us. It's the entirety of the league, and it's so sad. I will say if Manfred figures out a way to get rid of these blackouts and figures out a way to make everyone eat at the same table, I will probably go on record and say that he has been a great commissioner. And I mean that's just, again, it's been an opinion that's been building ever since the blackout or the lockout days. I think all of that was as gracefully and as crazy as all that went, or as crazy as all of it went. I think the fallout of it has been as graceful as possible. And then of course all of the pace of play things that he's done, I think have been really, really good for the game. And so this would be one more kind of, apple on the tree of, wow, he's done some things to really make a positive impact, and he really wants to do something about it. Again, I don't know if he has all of the power to make things happen, because it all goes back to money, as sad as it may be. But Josh, we have some baseball games to play this week. We're gonna finish up the series against the Guardians. Still got those Cardinals on my mind. Man, that was fun when we were beating the Cardinals, wasn't it? Got the Guardians, Maeda, Olsen going. Please, we need to win these games. I hate saying we need to win games in April and May, but that's where we are, and I'd very much like to not feel like we are completely out of the divisional race this early on. And then play the Stros. I'm going to Saturday's game. Am I going to see a win, Josh? Was I a little too preemptive in buying these tickets? It's a nice little Mother's Day gift. It's also my birthday.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm excited. I'm excited.
If you had to pin me down to a record for this week, including tonight's game, I say we end up going 3-3 this week.
That's very, very fair.
Which, after the weekend that we had, I think would be a relief. Is that fair?
I think the off day is couldn't come soon enough. I think that's how. I think it's gonna be a welcome off day that Thursday, but we'll see. Again, I think I'm gonna miss Verlander by like a game because the Astros didn't play today, and I'm so upset about it. But hey, maybe one day I'll get to watch him before he's 45. But
you need to figure out a way you can go to. Someday in your dream scenario, you need to figure out a way you can go to a city where they are playing around his start, where you're just planning on going to all 3 games regardless, so you can make sure that you catch him.
That's not going to work out, right?
Well, I mean, it's a better thought than you throwing a dart at a dartboard in a series where he may or may not pitch.
That'll be the week he breaks his big toe or something, or he has some arm soreness or whatever it is. His core flares up again. That's just
or a rain delay
or my lot in life.
Right.
That too. Oh my gosh, that would be even worse. Could you? I tried to come up with a terrible scenario. You just came up with a 10 times worse scenario where it's like, no, he's totally fine. He's not injured at all. But oh yeah, by the way, we don't want to start him because we're scared it's gonna rain. It's just never meant to be, dude. How many times have you seen him? Twice. He's not like, I mean, I know you like him and stuff, but he's not your dude.
Oh,
he's my dude, man.
He was my dude when he was with the Tigers. He came a little bit less of my dude when he went to the Astros. Yeah, I still like him. I still want him to do well, but he's not a Tiger. I'm a Tigers guy.
I 100% respect that. Josh, where can the kids find you?
We are on all of your socials at Old English D Pod on all of your podcast platforms. We appreciate everybody who listens every week. We appreciate all of you guys that go out and listen the first hour that is released. We see all of you. We appreciate every single one of you. Please continue to listen, continue to like and follow, and we will continue to push this out for you guys.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much for listening to us ramble. We had some breaking news in the middle of the pod. Parker Meadows, no longer a Detroit Tiger. Wish you well, Parker. wish you well. Come back soon. We need you. As always, Josh, thank you so much for joining me. Guys, thank you so much for listening. And as always, go